Now, here on set is Congressman Adam Schiff, a Democrat of California. Congressman, it's really nice to have you here in person. Thank you for coming in.
Good to be with you.
Good to see you. President Biden, I think, I don't know, but I think, not necessarily by his own choice, but by necessity, is focusing his campaign on threats to democracy. You very famously have made that case to the American public yourself in your role in impeachment and the January 6th investigation. What do you make of this as a strategic call by the president?
I think it's born of necessity. We are at a really fragile point in the history of our country, in the history of our democracy. You talked in your opening discussion about the state of our two-party system. In a two-party system, both parties need to have relative health. They need to be healthy for the system to work. I look forward to the day when the Republican Party is once again a home for people like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. But today, the Republican Party is in terribly ill health. And judged by that standard, our democracy is more vulnerable today than it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, we would be now 2 days from January 6th. And 2 days after those events, Republican leaders were repudiating Donald Trump. Kevin McCarthy was talking about his culpability, and you had Mitch McConnell around that time talking about there being remedies, i.e. prosecution for someone who engages in this kind of thing. Here we are 3 years later. The Republican Party is trying to completely reinvent those days and what took place. They have embraced him closer than ever. He is worse than ever. They're describing both the president and Republican leaders like Stefanik, those who were arrested on that day, as hostages, as political prisoners. Well, 2 days after the actual event, they were not describing those who beat officers and gouged them and bear sprayed them and had members of Congress running for their lives. They weren't describing them as, political prisoners, those who were arrested in that melee. But now they are. In terms of its commitment to democracy, the Republican Party is way worse than it was on that day. And it's been a clear trajectory. I often look to the canaries in the coal mine, and one of them, for me, was in 2016, not when Donald Trump was elected. Oh, that was a pretty compelling sign we were in trouble. But in North Carolina, on the same day when a Democratic governor was elected. And Republicans in North Carolina responded not by saying, next time we're going to do better, not by saying we'll have better message or better policies or a better candidate, but by instead stripping the Democratic governor of his responsibilities. This is what the Republicans in the legislature did. That was an ethic that said it's no longer about democracy. It's no longer about free and fair elections. It's about, if you lose, you try to change the rules of the game, or, as we would see 4 years later, you try to overturn the result.
Or Democrats are inherently ineligible to hold power, and only Republicans can hold power. I mean, that to me was the lesson out of North Carolina, that your enemy, your political enemy, is not somebody who you try to beat in an election and whoever wins gets power. Your political enemy is not allowed to ever hold power, even if they win. And that's the end.
Yes, yes. If the other side wins, it is inherently illegitimate.
Yeah.
And so I think of necessity, the president has to make this a big part, a central animating theme of his campaign. And also, as you were pointing out, and as Speaker Pelosi pointed out, not in theoretical terms, but in concrete terms. What would it mean to our economy to move away from democracy and become something less, some kind of autocratic form of government? It would be a disaster for us economically. It would be disastrous for us on the world stage. It would be a disaster for our allies, like those in Ukraine fighting the Russian dictator. It would be a disaster for our freedoms. We've lost some of the freedoms with a conservative reactionary court. We'll lose more the more we move towards autocracy. I also think one of the sharpest contrasts between Joe Biden and Donald Trump goes beyond economic issues, goes beyond even democracy issues, and it's one of just basic decency. I think the Biden administration is betting, and I think it's a good bet. The American people want their president to be a decent human being. And you couldn't have a sharper contrast between someone like Joe Biden, who is a good person, who is empathetic towards the struggles of the American people, who is working to address the needs of the American people and bring down the cost of housing and the cost of energy and make sure they have access to quality health care because he cares about what happens to them, and a Donald Trump who wills a depression on the country because it helps him politically, or strips the country of the resources it might use to help people with tax cuts for the rich and brags about it to his wealthy supporters, who cares about nothing but himself. There is a very sharp contrast, and I think the American people are good and decent and aren't going to want to be in the hands of an autocrat who doesn't believe in our democracy.
California Congressman Adam Schiff, sir, it's really good to have you here. It's nice to see you in person.
Good to see you, too.
Thanks. All right. Got much more ahead tonight's news.